Miami, Florida, colder than Alaska. And if you thought there was a glimmer of hope, spring mushrooms coming, this next round of winter storms is going to be more ferocious than the last. Let's take a look at it. And with a little bit of snow around, people are going to go out and have some fun. I guess it's different for every single person, depending on what your fun deal is. Getting back in and enjoying the fireplace. 7 a.m. Sunday. Juneau, Alaska is actually warmer than Miami, Florida. And the wind chill's cooler than that as well, if you can believe it. I'm trying to put into context here. This is, the inversion of everything that we see in our world currently. And taking a look at the extremes in cold temperature map, Cancun, Cuba, Bahamas, Miami, Florida, extremely cold. Well, record breaking, let's take a look. You can see where that dips all the way south. That polar air is pushing to where you see that U shape right in the middle of the Gulf of America, touching down into Cancun, touching into the highlands of Cuba. Not used to temperatures like this, but zoom in on it. That blue line is where the Arctic air ends. There's that transition zone, and then the warmth is where the orange line begins, going down through the Caribbean, down into Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, stopping Cuba. This is apparently one of the only Porsche 911s in Havana. The image captures unusuality, and so does this temperature map here. The purples, 50s to low 50s, the strawberry colors in the 40s in the highlands. We're going to look at Havana, north and to the west, coastal beach, 55 or lower. Forecast was 55. It was 2 degrees cooler Fahrenheit. And then we get into the highlands. This is interesting. In Cuba, 5 degrees Celsius, that's 41 Fahrenheit. Those two generally don't go together. Cuba, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. But we're in that kind of world. And the Bermuda Triangle doing its thing with a tornadic water spout. This is as that frontal boundary passed through the oceans. Coldest in years, diving into the Miami forecast, 35 Fahrenheit, ripping wind chills into the low 20s. Lauderdale, 34, Key West. And notice on the right in the yellow, these are the all-time coldest ever, but they're not comparing today's temperature. They're just comparing the coldest ever in Florida for these years, not this day, which again, I think could be, that's like an apple and an orange, really. So since they mentioned the Keys, dropping down wind chill, 42 Fahrenheit, Key West, again, something nearly unthinkable in this day and age of keeping the dream alive, shall we say. Wind chill tracker, Marathon Key, Key West, Homestead, Miami, 27, but it did dip down to 24 as I was looking at the lives. Now, this strong cold air blasting past Orlando with the snow flurries and almost 5 inches of snow west of that is going to continue through Monday morning. So as we bring in this video, it is still Sunday afternoon here. Going to continue ripping through on Monday. So the lowest wind chill recorded in Orlando, this is since 1952. I don't know why they didn't go further back in time. We have records back to the 1880s. So the record will be put in at 11 or 12 Fahrenheit. So that'll slot in either in the 5th to displace that or the 6th, just depending on where it sits in the finalized totals here. Low temperatures in the evening here, Jacksonville 21, St. Augustine 25, going deep below the freeze. Iguanas, pick them up, barbecue them, apparently delicious. Do us all a favor, get rid of the pests, catch the pythons. And I'm going to swing you back over to Tennessee for just a second here. Memphis is having a better winter than some ski resorts in the West. Again, like these statements are unthinkable here. Snow depth of above 3 inches, 6 days in a row. And this does go back to 1928. So if you look at that, yeah, and then there's a drought of snow in some ski resorts. Now, bringing it back to the ice storm that covered Nashville on the left. On January 5th, 2026, the U.S. Department of Energy announced $2.7 billion in contracts to restore domestic uranium enrichment capabilities. On January 14th, the U.S. administration showed their support again. The White House invoked Section 232 via an executive order, a formal declaration of U.S. resource independence. It's a mandate. Energy security is now synonymous with national security. And the U.S. government is deploying its full physical and regulatory arsenal to secure the nuclear fuel cycle within North America. Here's the reality. The U.S. consumes over 50 million pounds of uranium annually, but produces less than 1 million pounds domestically. That means we're dependent on foreign suppliers for 98% of our uranium, a critical vulnerability for national security, power generation, and advanced defense systems. This is where Atomic Minerals comes in, trading on the TSX venture under ATOM Atom, and in the United States, OTC under ATMMF. The leadership includes members who were behind the discovery and $654 million sale to Rio Tinto, an exit about 59 times larger than Atomic Minerals' current valuation. You do the math. Atomic controls 4 100% owned uranium projects strategically located in the Colorado Plateau. Trading at an 87% discount to the peer group average, the company presents potential upside as the market begins to recognize its strategic asset and proven management team. Uranium prices have surged, and some analysts project they could reach $100 per pound as demand outpaces supply. Atomic Minerals isn't waiting. The company has drill programs underway, with exploration results pending and government support accelerating. With a government mandate, an experienced management team, and strategic uranium assets in a Tier 1 jurisdiction, Atomic Minerals is a company I'm watching closely. If you want to learn more about this critical minerals story and the team that already delivered big results, click on that link in the description. And a special thanks to Atomic Minerals for making today's video possible. That's atomicminerals.ca. You can see the snow, the freezing rain layer, and then snow on top. It makes that layer cake. And on the right, we're looking at the younger, driest boundary black mat, complete evaporation of all plant matter, at least on the sun-facing side. And suddenly, this burned detritus comes down in a massive ash layer and is encapsulated on clay and rock above it. 12,900 years ago on the boundary layer for you there. On the left, just last week for the freezing sleet and rain layer. Same, but different. Thought I'd bring it to you because the Adapt 2030 channel is all about being interesting. Pittsburgh dropped 11 degrees Fahrenheit below zero, sub-zero. Pittsburgh, coldest in 32 years. That brings us to a decadal record. And just to keep things on track, Taishan Mountains in China, solar farms covered in, well, white dusty powder. This is out west, heading on the Silk Road, out through the Tarim Basin. Well, apparently the hydrological cycle has flipped. They weren't expecting that snowfall. And you see that around the world, we're not expecting a lot of things that are happening right now. So that was just a quick update over the last chill factor in the Caribbean areas far south in the U.S. Now, this next set of storms that's coming is going to be, well, equally dropping south. Now, the intensity on it, we'll take a look. It's an ongoing thing, stratospheric warming event, again, displacing all that polar air, and it's going to rip as this much more intense and lengthy on the full duration of the storm than it was. Are we coming into spring, the spring mushrooms? And that's everybody's like, it's got to be the end of it. Yeah, here in Tennessee, that's finally the last storm. I am here to tell you we at least have one more round of Arctic polar air. Is there a glimmer of hope? Is there light at the end of the tunnel? In the depleted magnetic field on the Earth, where very small CMEs come ripping in, creating massive electrified skies. Don't even talk about the plasma petroglyphs. Let's move on to the forecast here. Tropopause. We're looking at the white is incredibly cold, what you consider polar air, a pool of it dripping down over Canada into the border of the U.S. and some of these same areas that we've seen occasionally with North, South Dakota, Minnesota, this sort of thing. Now, that blue striation heading all the way down through Mexico into the Yucatan, way past over into Baja, that's polar air that's been ripped off as its own individual pool. So if we're looking at just the wider scope of this, this is February 10th. 500 millibar. I want to keep these charts the same for you as we move forward. So the height and altitude is definitely something to keep in mind. Not all charts are created equal. So you can see where the polar displacement is, that pink there, and it's showing you 45 degrees below zero. Now, the last winter storm that we just experienced was pooling at 50 Fahrenheit below zero. So it's about 5 degrees Celsius warmer, which gives me a glimmer of hope. Oh, the heating is coming back. It's going to be negative 45. And as we march forward onto the 16th, it's actually in February, not March, but we're marching, we're moving. That polar displacement still is there, but it's being replaced and reinforced by yet another pool of cold air that's above it. And there's going to be two in a row. And you can see where it's going to dip to, back down into Gulf of America. We're way deep into the cooling temperatures on the 16th. And he said, well, those charts, I don't know. I see a bunch of swirls, pink colors, blues. Let's see something technical. This is your sudden stratospheric warming event in a 3D columned model here for you. Now, the 23rd is where those devastating ice storms, and you can see how that vortex had the main column crushed like a beer can or a soda can would and elongated itself. What you can see behind you on the 9 o'clock position is all that cold air that's moving in a counterclockwise direction. You can see the blue arrow. You can see where it's heading to. And as we move forward, this is the 30th, and it got a little bit closer. But what did you notice? Those pockets are starting to rip apart. Those pockets are going to stay the same cold, but they're just going to dislodge from the main body of cold, and they're going to be their own individual cut off lows and Arctic air pockets. We see this occasionally. This is just like textbook right here in front of you. And what do we see? Those blue arrows pointing to those pockets that are going to just, they're going to be Arctic air, but they're just going to move in their own, not attached to the main body of air. This will bring us out through the 12th. And what do you see behind that? The rest of the main body of cool is going to continue to wind through here into the US. So I'm saying we are far from done from winter here with this one. So I kind of want to put these together to give you a better context. On the left, you're starting to see tropopause heights, and you can see the ground temperatures will reflect that, and that blue tongue coming off there, like I say, over through Baja. It'll swing down over the Yucatan as it moves. It's spiraling. On the right side of the chart, you're looking at those same displaced air pockets. That is going to be causing the left there, that chart you see on the left of that displacement far down. So we'll see where it moves. So get ready for another barn burner, because I will say generally as we come into February and March, at least here in the Southeast, it generally gets more moisture in the atmosphere. You know, we're coming into the spring. Things are starting to warm up. There's more evaporative effect. A lot of times there's more Gulf moisture pushed up in this way too. So if we get another one of those collisions, we're going to see more ice storms. So if you think we're kind of at the end of it, we're not really. We got this one more massive one here. I think after this, though, in the Southeast US, after this one clears through, we'll pretty much be over with winter. But until now, this is going to take us all the way through the 16th plus a few days, because you can see the following and the trailing of that cool air coming up for another week or two behind it. So we probably won't get this totally cleared out until pretty close to March. We got another, it's going to warm up tremendously, and then it's going to get slammed back down into incredibly cold temperatures. So when I was talking about the heights in the pressures here, we go up at 50 millibars, 50 hectopascals. This was the last set of storms that had come through January 20th, devastating ice storms. You can see how it's directed in the US to give you some indication on how these teardrop shapes form themselves in the atmosphere and push that polar air down. So as we look at this last storm, and even through today and tomorrow, that is bringing us this near record cold down to Miami, near record cold in Cuba. These areas in the Bahamas putting out 35 to 37 degree wind chill factor warnings in the Bahamas. That's what you're looking at there. So I would also say the blue arrow is this storm, but following behind is where that next polar air mass is going to come ripping through. But to put it in perspective, this is the air temperatures that we're seeing on the ground of the anomalies that are at 25 degrees Celsius off the chart. We're looking at Alabama, Georgia, and Florida coming together. That is literally off the chart of 25 degrees Celsius plus below normal. And these types of warnings here, that dark blue in Florida, that is a freeze warning all the way down, as you see, to right at Miami. This is very rare to see something of Florida specifically like this, not so much Tennessee. So as we come up 10 millibars, that's even higher in the atmosphere than the 50 millibar or the 500. You're going way up. But it just shows you the general rotation. You're looking for the greens and the blues as that comes swinging around. This is going to be the 6. So that's that pool of air that was off to the west below Alaska. You see it's moved, but it's also displacing as it's moving. And as we come into the 13th, it's moved yet again. Now we're starting to pick up into the polar air here. Ultimately will thin and swing through on the 21st. This one is, well, it's going to be more wide-ranging and more all-encompassing than the last one. Snow and record cold. And this last one here bringing freezing temperatures, the southeast down to Cuba and that whole incredible bombogenesis snowstorm. I'll put these together for easy reference. That red arrow just to the west, that's that next pool of air below Alaska. And as it swings around over the next 3 weeks here into the 21st of February, those below normal pressures are going to be more all-encompassing as it swings through the U.S. The difference in the map is it's very, very regional in what you're seeing that just occurred over the last few days, mainly to the east, further to the south. But then what we see coming through the 21st is pretty much all the low to 48 going way down toward Florida again, and generally encompasses, well, we shall see. But there's your forecast. Winter not over by a long shot. But let's jump down to the heat in Australia, 50 Celsius. I mean, that's crazy. It's all over the news down there. That's all they're talking about. It's 50, 50, 50 in one little location. But you can see the temperatures are about to drop off a cliff right back into normal range again. And it's going to be a quick drop off. It'll take less than 2 days and it'll go from that heat right back into normal temperatures. Again, they're coming into their fall as we're coming into our spring, different hemisphere. Got to ride that heat and keep the dream alive. I do appreciate you watching. Now, we are definitely, again, not ready for the end of winter. So we got one more big round here. It's going to be another disruptor if you're going to be traveling during that time. Get ready for it. You got another week or so to enjoy the warmth, and then the cold's coming right back again. So please share this with your friends and family so y'all can get ready for the next one. We had about 6-ish inches of snow here in East Tennessee. This winter's got a lot more surprises for us, and you're going to keep hearing record as we finish out February into March. I'll see you next time. Please remember to prepare for these emergencies. Now you got a break. You got a time to take a breath. Get ready for the next set. I know a lot of people are unprepared. Share this with your friends and family. 72-hour, 3-day emergency food kit. We got the 2-week and also 1-month emergency food kit. Something for everybody. Because right now is the time to get ready if you weren't before, because here comes round 3. And since we're in this era of you got free speech, but you don't have freedom of reach, please share with your friends and families because the algo is not doing it. I will see you next time. Bye for now.